Hey everyone, this is J-Dog, and I'm here with another video. Chicago residents have had enough with the migrant crisis. Chicago is one of a few cities that's dealing with this migrant crisis of illegal immigrants just walking from the border, getting bussed in the state of Texas, and being sent to what you call sanctuary cities. And the residents of some of these sanctuary cities who are American citizens, taxpayers, have had enough. Because what's happening is the migrants are taking all the resources. Some of them who are turned out to be criminals is causing a lot of crime. And they're really being used as part of a gentrification strategy to kick out mostly black people because they're being put in mostly black neighborhoods because that's all part of the strategy to undermine black people, to use them as to replace black people, to put in the gentrification. And yeah, the residents have had enough. So now Chicago residents, including those in the black community that live in Chicago, and even other Chicago residents, are now following a lawsuit against the city of Chicago and to try to stop public buildings to be used as housing for migrants. The allowing of housing of migrants is because of this man, Brandon Johnson, and this man, J.B. Prisker. Prisker. Read my notes here. J.B. Prisker. I was trying to learn a little bit more about his name. He's the governor of Illinois. Brandon Johnson, this man, this sellout, this Sambo, he's the mayor of Chicago. He was elected recently after Lori Lightfoot got booted out of office. He's allowing public school buildings, public rec centers be taken away from the citizens of Chicago, American citizens. The black community is losing all their resources. They're losing all their rec centers, their schools, to house migrants who shall not even be here. Alright, they already committed a crime when they walked through the border. And because Greg Abbott from Texas, he had enough with them allowing just legal migrants, the Demon Rat Party, just allowing migrants who should not be here to replace American citizens. They're trying to use them as a new voting base because they don't want to have to work with black people for votes, because the Demon Rat Party, they're going to lose next year's election, and it's their fault, and I don't feel bad for the Demon Rats because they weren't trying to help the black community. And this sellout here, Brandon Johnson, he's going to be a one-term mayor. He's going to be voted out. They've already said, the residents of Chicago have already said that they're going to try to vote him out. But right now, they're just going to file a lawsuit. Don't just follow a lawsuit. Protest, continue to protest, go on strike, boycott Chicago businesses, make Chicago suffer. And not just Chicago. New York, you need to do the same thing that Chicago's doing. If you live in New York, you need to start filing a lawsuit because they're doing the same thing with these migrants. But at least, this man, Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, he's now realized that this migrant crisis is causing problems. He's now telling the migrants to stop coming over to New York City, and the Demon Rats are not happy with his decision because he's kind of wants to secretly get rid of sanctuary city status and take some of the migrants away, take them out of New York because he knows he too is going to end up being a one-term mayor because he's betrayed the black community and the rest of the residents of New York City as well. And of course, their governor who's also allowing this migrant crisis in New York is Kathy Hochul. Hochul. Yeah, forgive me if I pronounced her name wrong. Hochul. So you have, these are the residents of Chicago. They're now going to file a lawsuit because they're losing their rec cities. Matter of fact, they had this town hall meeting where you had the kids joining the residents to fighting against the migrant crisis, against them losing their rec center and their schools to house migrants that should not be here. These people who are undocumented and they already broke the law, so they should not be here. So they're taking a knee and stuff like that because this country has betrayed them. They have betrayed the residents of Chicago for the migrants. They're allowing the migrants to shelter in their rec center that was meant for them to do activities like play football to help keep them off the streets. And Brandon Johnson has betrayed them. And it's not just Brandon Johnson. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, that's this guy, Kamala Harris, they're responsible for this too. Because they're allowing the migrant crisis to happen. That's why next year, there's a lot of black people that's not going to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They both are losing a lot of poll numbers. They're losing a lot of the black vote. That's why they're so desperate to try to get these immigrants to become citizens so they can vote and flood the zone because they're losing the black vote, and rightfully so. These people are also responsible for what's happening in both New York and Chicago. But like I said, this guy right here, he's just a buck dancing buffoon that's betrayed the black residents of Chicago. Yeah, he personally needs to be sued for what he's doing to the people of Chicago. And whenever people are doing town halls, he's nowhere to be found. He's in hiding somewhere. He's in hiding somewhere. He's like a coward. Alright. So yeah, these are the people. They are shout out to this individual. Brandon Johnson and the Democrats are criminals. Yes, and that's why they're going to be filed a law. That's why a lawsuit is filed against them. They need to go to court now. Yeah, and the taxpayers, they're losing money because of these migrants. Why should the taxpayer pay for people who are dealing with stuff over at other countries that doesn't involve the residents of Chicago and stuff like that? Why do we, the taxpayer of America, has to flip the bill for this migrant crisis? But you're not trying to help the homeless people who are American citizens, who are trying to get a bite to eat, is trying to get a place to stay. You took them out of their shelters just to put the migrants in there. That's another thing. That's why the black residents of Chicago need to stop voting for these corrupt politicians. Maybe the maybe the Democrats should be voted out of Chicago. Maybe you should put some of these people. Primary Brandon Johnson. Make sure Brandon Johnson can't get reelected. Let's also primary Biden. Let's also, the general election next year. Maybe we should try to vote Biden out of office because he's betrayed the black community. Yeah, let's vote Biden out of office too. Biden needs to step down anyway because he's old, demented, and possibly a suspect racist, and he's just too weak to continue running the country. Yeah, this guy right here. Remember, this is the same guy who did the 1994 crime bill that put a lot of black people, even innocent ones, in jail and stuff like that. But when it came to his son, with the gun charges that his son Hunter Biden is dealing with, he's not going to try to put his son in jail, and we'll wonder why. Other than that he's his son. But Joe Biden wanted to create this crime bill to hurt black people and stuff like that. Now he's using this migrant crisis to also hurt black people. And the residents of Chicago have had enough. They've had enough of Brandon Johnson. They had enough of J.B. Perkles. They've had enough of Eric Adams. And then the city people and New York residents. I hope the New York residents also file a lawsuit, because they need to file a lawsuit against this man, Eric Adams, this woman, Kathy Hochul. You can also add in AOC and Chuck Schumer, put them in a lawsuit. And then eventually we need to do a lawsuit against this woman. We need to do a lawsuit against Kamala Harris. And we also need to do a lawsuit or try to get Biden impeached somehow. Biden needs to be impeached for this migrant crisis that's hurting the residents. This migrant crisis should not happen. Maybe there needs to be an impeachment, since you're allowing the migrants to break the law and hurt the citizens because they're committing crimes in some of the black residents, and black residents get blamed because, the racism and stuff, because there's migrants coming in that are anti-black racists. So maybe Biden needs to be impeached. Maybe Joe Biden needs to be impeached for this migrant crisis that's affecting us. And it's not just black people. There's even white people that are being affected by this. Hell, there's even Latinos. And it's mostly their people that are, mostly their immigrants within their community that's coming in. And even some of the Latinos don't want some of these migrants in. That's why they're flooding the black community. So yeah, Biden needs to be impeached. Kamala Harris needs to be impeached. Let's also impeach, now at least with Eric Adams, yes, he's now realizing the evils of his ways, and he actually doesn't want any more immigrants coming to New York City. And Biden's even telling him to send him to New Jersey and make it someone else's problem, make it another problem, another state's problem. But in the same time, he and Kathy Hochul needs to be impeached. Hell, this guy, I just showed this guy, J.B. Pritzker. Yeah, J.B. Pritzker, he needs to be impeached. He needs to have lawsuits against. They all need to be impeached and stuff like that for what this migrant crisis is, how it's affecting the taxpayer and everything like that. These cowards. They're allowing a new criminal element because they're not vetting these people. Yeah, I get it that some of them are escaping corrupt third world dictatorships and stuff like that. Which, by the way, some of that stuff that happened in their countries while they're fleeing was because of the foreign policies of, guess what, the United States. But Brandon Johnson, yeah, there needs to be consequences. Now, I'm glad that in Chicago, the residents are filing a lawsuit and are protesting. They need to boycott Pacific stores that are supporting politicians that support this migrant crisis happening. There needs to be a lot of boycotts. There needs to be protests. Stuff needs to happen. There needs to be court cases. File as many lawsuits as possible. To the residents of New York, take the advice of, take the advice of Chicago and file a lawsuit of your own as well. There needs to be a bunch of lawsuits against these so-called sanctuary cities. There needs to be a lot of lawsuits against these so-called sanctuary cities for allowing filth into their city through the migrant crisis. Because the migrant crisis does not help the black community. It's hurting the black community. They're trying to use them to replace us. That some of them are anti-black, just like the racist here in America. And one day in Chicago, Brandon Johnson, this coward, is gonna face his judgment, and he's not gonna be allowed in office ever again. And I hope he never gets any political power. I hope he doesn't get to go to House of Representatives or state senator. He needs to be removed from his position as mayor and never gets in higher political office. But that's all I have to say. But one more thing, to the Chicago residents, keep the fight going. Hold on. To the Chicago residents, keep the fight going. You need to stop this migrant crisis from going into your city and destroying it and causing you to leave your city. Alright, keep up the fight. File that lawsuit. File as many lawsuits as any of those Democrat politicians that's allowing this to happen. Even some of these Republican ones that's allowing this to happen. Yeah, it's time to fight for justice. Do boycotts, do protests, do whatever you can, Chicago. Same with New York. File lawsuits, file civil suits, file any kind of lawsuits. It's time to start suing some of these people in both Chicago and New York. New York needs to start suing some people as well, because this migrant crisis is going to continue to destroy the city of Chicago, and it's going to be, y'all gotta fight back. It's time for our community. I'm glad that the people are starting to wake up and fight back against this crisis. It's time for the city of Chicago to finally stand up for itself and fight this crisis by getting these people out back to their home countries, because some of them should not be here. Some of them are criminals that they should not be here causing problems. Yes, it's time for the residents of Chicago to start fighting for their city again and holding Brandon Johnson accountable, because speaking of Brandon Johnson needs to be held accountable for his actions. Even it means if he's immediately call for a recall. That's what needs to happen, and get him out of office so he can't cause as much damage as he's already doing. Yeah, this man, Brandon Johnson, needs to be held accountable for his actions. He can look at like this all he want, but he's acting like a coward. He needs to be set example, because he's destroying people's lives in the city of Chicago. He should have never been elected in the first place. But that's all I have to say about this situation. Yeah, it's time to get the corrupt government in the state of Illinois needs to be dealt with. But yeah, I want to know what y'all think in the comment section. Write down in the comment section what y'all think. I believe this lawsuit needs to be filed, and the city of Chicago should pay the residents. And yeah, the Illinois state government, the city of Chicago local government needs to be dealt with. But that's all I have to say. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit that notification bell. This is J Dog. Thank you for watching, and I hope to catch y'all in another video. Peace, everyone.